forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby Maine. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
Brian McLeod to kill Lowell Fletcher. You know, one of the things that I did ask Brian McLeod to do was I asked him to bring Fletcher or Yayo to me. So took it upon himself and he killed Lowell Fletcher. So here's the most important thing out of this whole thing. I'm not the murderer here. The murderer in this whole situation is home. All he had to do was point the finger at me, and he went home. And I'm in jail for life when I never hired him to kill anyone. So, you know,
oh, gee, Jimmy the Rat.
I'm glad that it was overturned. I'm happy. It's hopefully that, you know, I won't have to go back to trial, but it's Brian McLeod to kill Lowell Fletcher. You know, one of the things that I did ask Brian McLeod to do was I asked him to bring Fletcher or Yayo to me. So took it upon himself and he killed Lowell Fletcher. So here's the most important thing out of this whole thing. I'm not the murderer here. The murderer in this whole situation is home. All he had to do was point the finger at me, and he went home. And I'm in jail for life when I never hired him to kill anyone. So, you know,
oh, gee, Jimmy the Rat.
I'm glad that it was overturned. I'm happy. It's hopefully that, you know, I won't have to go back to trial.
I don't glorify nothing. I made my bed, I lay in it. I done been banned from MTV. Yo, yeah, you got hot in the back. Yo, all right, Chris Lighty. Hot in the back. Rest in peace, Chris Lighty. 50, yo, lay your high in the back. MTV don't want me here.
Yeah.
They got me for slapping a kid.
Slapping who?
Jimmy Henchman's son.
So James Rosemond, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're the son of Jimmy Rosemond,
Yeah.
Zara Entertainment. I can't imagine that you've had an everyday life, you know,
Yes.
growing up as a kid, having access to all of this stuff and all the stars and all the access that your dad has had. What has life been like for you, being the son of Jimmy Rosemond?
A lot of friends, fake, real, a lot. You know, just because they know who my father is. You know, then the traveling. You know, be able to meet a lot of artists that my friends be like, oh man, I'm a big fan of. That's when you have a father like, you know, Jimmy Rosemond who done a great job. You know, and watching him, you know, since I was a little one, I was like, this gotta be
Your dad
this.
was actually found guilty this summer of drug trafficking, and he's in a detention center right now. Could be facing life in prison. I know that must be really tough.
Very tough.
For you.
Yes.
You're close to your dad.
Yes, like a best friend. Just gotta stay strong. You know, I'm just disappointed that, you know, these lies that they had on him, you know. At the end of the day, you know, and I know my father, and anybody know my father, he got a great heart, you know. He's a great person. So, you know, definitely disappointed, but at the end of the day, we just gotta pray, you know, and that's what my family's doing, you know. We just praying and we're gonna get through it.
So what y'all gonna do if somebody slapped y'all son? What up though? It's Shay's Popalot. We back on MOBB business. Now this is gonna be an NYC story. I'm gonna need everybody to meet us in the BX. Shit gonna get wicked in the Mount Eden section. Now I'm gonna need y'all to take a trip with me down memory lane to the mid-2000s when G-Unit was the hottest thing in the streets And this is going to be well after 50 Cent will release 50 Cent is the Future, where we would first get familiar with guys like Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks. By that time, 50 already had teamed up with Mark Echo and had y'all in them wild wife beaters, rocking them G-Unit sneakers. The crew would begin to expand and they would add other members like UTP Defect, Young Buck, but it would be a rapper from California that at that time would be like something that we never seen before, that just went by The Game. Now, when I say he was a rapper like we never seen before, we've seen lyrical people come from out of the West Coast. Kind of when I think about it, some of the first people I think about is going to be guys like Corrupt, Ross Cass, Exhibit. Y'all definitely get in the comment box if y'all feel like I missed some people. I know a lot of people going to say Kendrick and guys like that. This is pre all of that. Now, at this time, I'm going to personally say that The Game was probably one of the more lyrical people in the music industry at that time. So much so that he was able to go back and forth with Fabulous, who to me is by far one of the most lyrical people that we've seen in the time with doing music. Now, The Game would build his buzz pretty much dropping freestyles on the mixtape circuit right around this time. And when the news would hit that he would possibly sign with G-Unit, it was almost like the super team situation, like when LeBron took his talents to South Beach, or even what was supposed to happen before then for all my people that are hip on their basketball histories. It was a time when the Orlando Magic tried to sign Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill, and Tim Duncan. So to try to put it in perspective, The Game joining G-Unit was something of that proportions, because 50 was probably the hottest artist out at the time. And a lot of people were saying how Lloyd Banks was one of the most lyrical people. And when you add Game to Young Buck and Tony Yayo, who they already had, that would make the crew even that more formidable. And just thinking about it, it's hard for me to remember a phrase that was more memorable at that time than G-Unit. And if he was an up-and-coming artist, that was definitely probably one of the places you would have wished and hoped to be. But just because some things have potential don't mean they're meant to be. And the relationship between The Game and 50 Cent was sour almost immediately after the release of the documentary, resulting in 50 Cent dropping The Game publicly in an interview that the group was doing with Funkmaster Flex in 2005. And in the aftermath, a lot of wild things would happen as a result of that beef. We would see Game release his own documentary where he would go to the mansion that 50 Cent had purchased from Mike Tyson. We would see, I can't remember if it was Smack DVD or Cocaine City, where Game allegedly went to New York City with 20 Bloods, apparently looking to catch wreck with G-Unit, but nothing more wilder than the death of Lowell Lodi Mack Fletcher in September of 2009. And in the words of Tony Yayo himself, besides Fat Joe, the beef that G-Unit found themselves in with James Jimmy Henchman Roseman, due to his close association with managing The Game, would be the most dangerous of beefs of many that G-Unit will find themselves in. And when you just kind of look at it, the things that was going on in this beef back in 2005 through 2007 was crazy, and it had no rules in a time where I want to say rules were semi in place, where now today the shit that was happening then is regular. So for instance, I seen a Vlad interview where we all remember a scenario where Tony Yayo's mom's house was shot up, and he explained how his mom, his sister, and his niece was in there. And while doing my research for this episode, I seen an updated interview where he said his mom's house was shot at or shot into at least 22 different times. So to kind of put this into perspective, they was shooting his mama house up before people was pulling up and shooting up houses. So not to mention that, Jimmy Henchman's 14-year-old son would end up being assaulted. And when the news kind of first broke about it, it was said that Tony Yayo had smacked Jimmy Henchman's son. Tony Yayo would end up being charged for a misdemeanor, but then it would come out, or Lodi Mack would end up taking the charge where he said he was the one responsible for smacking Jimmy Henchman's son, and he would end up being forced to serve 9 months in prison for that, as well as a drug case he caught previously. And unbeknownst to Lodi Mack, the planning of his demise would start while he was serving that 9-month prison sentence. And Lodi Mack, who was said to be a lieutenant in the Bloods at that time, would be shot and killed on a Bronx street in less than 2 weeks from being released from serving that sentence. Now, according to several government witnesses that testified against Jimmy Henchman, would say that the plan to inflict harm to Lodi Mack almost immediately after he would arrive at the Mohawk Correctional Facility in Rome, New York. Now, according to one of the few men that would testify against Jimmy Henchman, he would state that Lodi Mack would be bragging about the assault on Jimmy Henchman's 14-year-old son, going even further to testify that it would even cause Jimmy Henchman to lose sleep. Now, after serving his 9-month bid, and according to the government's theory, would be set up to be murdered on the Bronx street, they would present evidence at Jimmy Henchman's trial saying that Jimmy Henchman provided Brian McLeod, who was an up-and-coming musician, $30,000 worth of cocaine to plan and carry out the shooting of Lodi Mack. One of the men testifying against Jimmy Henchman would speak of an elaborate plan of how they would carry out the shooting of Lodi Mack through a potato chip bag, using it as a disguise. Now, even though he would tell the government from the beginning, both in private meetings and at trial, that Jimmy Roseman never told him to murder Lowell Fletcher and never mentioned killing Lowell Fletcher at all, Jimmy Henchman's case would be tried 3 times, with the jury deadlocking in the first trial, him being found guilty in the second trial, but that conviction being overturned, with him eventually being found guilty in the third trial in the murder for hire of Lowell Lodi Mack Fletcher. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, with somebody losing their life just over a rapper being dropped from a label. But really, that's usually how shit goes, especially when rappers beefing. It's going to be somebody for the entourage. And in this case, it was the manager, Jimmy Henchman, who ended up being convicted and forced to serve the rest of his life, and Tony Yayo's man, who was just an affiliate of G Unit, that would lose his life for this. Now, y'all let me know how far y'all taking it, man. Somebody smack your kid. What's the situation? How is that going to play out? Y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and the subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. Definitely need my guys from the BX down there running it up, letting us know y'all section. Y'all let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we missed, who we need to cover, what I got wrong, all of that. Y'all tap in with me directly on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. And y'all know the rundown, man. Be back before you know it. Shades Popalot. Salute the almighty MOBB.